go. Actually, it was Tennessee Titans they got a chance on fourth down with with a little over 2 minutes to go. And on fourth down, unfortunately, Alex Smith throws an incomplete pass. It's turned over on downs. Tennessee Titans get the ball back at the 2-minute warning. Then, all of a sudden, Derrick Henry looks like he fumbled the ball, recovered by Derrick Johnson of the Chiefs defense. And he goes all the way to the end zone for what was the go-ahead touchdown. Would have made it 27-21, except there's a thing called instant replay, and it was instantly reviewed, and it was ruled that Derrick Henry was pretty much on the ground with the football intact. Therefore, it was ruled in Tennessee's favor, and some clock-killing runs by Derrick Henry and Marcus Mariota. They iced the game. Titans beat the Chiefs 22-21. The Chiefs continued their miserable losing playoff ways at home since 1994, and the Titans go on to New England. Our next matchup right here, folks. Who would have thought? Tennessee Titans winning against the Chiefs, now having to go into the Lions' den that is New England against a Patriot squad that has had 2 weeks to rest. Great quarterback in the 4-year-old magic wonder that is Tom Brady and Gronkowski. And here's another caveat. There's going to be the return of Rex Burkhead and James White to go with Dion Lewis in that ferocious 3-man running back group. From the Tennessee Titans, the only way to victory for Tennessee and to get an upset, here are a few things to do. 1, move the chains. To do that, you got to run the ball constantly with Derrick Henry and Marcus Mariota because DeMarco Murray, unfortunately, is out for a third straight week with that leg injury, that MCL injury. So he won't be able to play in this game. So it's going to have to come down to Derrick Henry, who had 146 yards in the game, in the wild card game against Kansas City. He's going to have another performance like that for the Titans in order to win. 2, Titans defense has got to irritate, and I mean irritate the hell out of Tom Brady. Hit him left and right, come up with confusing, explosive, exotic blitz packages that he is not able to read at the snap. And if you're able to force him into a mistake, take advantage because you're not going to get many opportunities with a guy like Tom Brady. And another way to win, do not give him enough time with a chance to win. He's one of those quarterbacks like Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, with just enough time left in the clock, he can make magic happen in just a span of a few minutes or few seconds. Do not give him any hope whatsoever, and you got to be able to game plan and adjust for how New England adjusts, because New England is the best at adjusting on the fly, whether they're going to run or pass. No matter, they always prepare for their opponents. You got to be as equally prepared, Tennessee, as New England is. But even with all that preparation, with all those tips I gave you, you're not going to be able to do any of that because, again, we're talking about Tom Brady, the bionic man. And we're talking about a defense that for a 7-week span only gave up 17 points. And let's not forget, too, you played Kansas City that should have been able to win this game several times in the second half and blew it immensely. You're not going to have that same type of thing taking place in New England. Therefore, I'm going with the Patriots to win this game, but by a field goal. I'm going to go with a Gostkowski field goal. Next reviewed game of the AFC wild card, Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills. First time since 2007 the Buffalo Bills are in the postseason. First time since 1999 2007 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's 1999 for the Buffalo Bills. Sorry for that confusion, folks. But it's been a long time for both teams, and they've waited for this day to take place. And it was not exactly what you call an offensive. It wasn't a game for offensive glory. It was painstakingly clear how bad both offenses were, but it was a great defensive performance on both squads, including my favorite from Blake Bortles, the Jekyll and Hyde of NFL quarterbacks, went 12 of 23 for 87 yards. He had more yards running the ball. He had 2 more yards on the ground than he did passing. But the spectacular play was when the game was tied 3-3, third quarter, with 42 seconds to go, 4th and goal at the Buffalo 1-yard line. He decides to go for it. play action fake, throws it down the middle to Ben Koyak, the tight end, with both his feet barely in bounds for the go-ahead score. The Jaguars are up 10-3. The Bills still haven't had multiple chances. Even in the first half, when they were first and goal at the Jacksonville 1. And then Kelvin Benjamin commits a stupid 10-yard offensive pass interference penalty, and then a 2-yard loss eventually by Tyrod Taylor. They had to settle for a field goal when they could have had a touchdown. That could have been a difference maker right there for Buffalo early in the game. And then in the second half, Charles Clay looked like he had a first down play, except he went out of bounds and decided to come back in bounds, which no player is allowed to do. And Jacksonville's head coach, Doug Maroney, challenged the Buffalo Bills' first down play, and it was ruled in Jacksonville's favor and against Buffalo. So they had to replay that down, and with a 10-second, they had to replay that down, and it didn't work for them. It just really it backfired on them immensely. And on the next play, it's 3rd and 10 from the Jacksonville 48 line, and Myles Jack ends up sacking Tyrod Taylor, and they force a punt on that play. With about less than a minute 30 to go in the game, Tyrod Taylor unfortunately gets knocked out of the game from the Buffalo Bills, and in comes Nathan Peterman. We all saw what he did in that classic 5-interception performance against the LA Chargers. That was the 57-14 loss that the Bills had early in the season, in which Nathan Peterman lasted only one half. Well, he comes up with a few good plays, but at the end of the day, throws a game-ending interception to Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback for the Jaguars. They had to, of course, the NFL had to review that interception, and of course, it was ruled an interception in Jacksonville's favor. They iced the game. Jacksonville won 10-3. Now they go on to play. Jaguars go on to play those Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you're in Pittsburgh again, go to Permanente Brothers. Capicola and egg sandwich with some nice French fries and, of course, coleslaw and a good beer to all go down with, or soda, whatever you like. But nonetheless, you got to check that out. And meat and potatoes, home of Leg of Beast. Falls right off the bones. Really good. I love talking about food and football. It's the best parts football. Well, anyway, Jaguars, Steelers in the Steel City. They played each other back October 9th. That was the game in which Jacksonville won 30-9, and that was the career worst performance for Ben Roethlisberger. He didn't have just one, not two, not three, but 5 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for long touchdown runs, 28 and 51 yards. This time around, things have changed for both organizations, especially this time around. We're going to see Antonio Brown back for the Steelers receiving corps after just a few weeks' absence. That's huge. They really need him to perform well in this game, and he's going to be guarded by Jalen Ramsey. That is going to be the matchup of the game everybody needs to look at. Whoever can win that matchup, and whoever is going to be guarding over the top, along with Jalen Ramsey against Antonio Brown, whoever wins that matchup wins the game for their team. Originally, I was going to go with Pittsburgh, which is the smart bet. Considering, you got Roethlisberger, you got the other killer bee, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell, who had 93 yards in that game back in October. Will he have even more yards? Will he be the focal point for the Steelers' offense in this particular contest? And what about Jacksonville? Will Blake Bortles be able to throw the ball better than he can run the ball? Or are they going to stick to him running the ball like they did last week with the occasional passing plays? They need to have a good balance, honestly, in this game. If Jacksonville wants to win, Blake Bortles can't be Jekyll and Hyde, can't have any mistakes or turnovers whatsoever like he did the last few weeks of the regular season. You got to play mistake-free against this Pittsburgh defense, or they will make you pay for it and then some. And on top of all that, the Jaguars' defense is going to have to come really hard at Ben again for another time. They're not going to get the same amount of interceptions. I know that for sure. But they got to come with that same intensity at the line of scrimmage. Get in his grill, and knock him down a peg or two. And especially you need two guys to knock this guy. He's a big, burly quarterback. He's not your average, quarterback that you can just one person knock him down. He's very strong for a QB for sure. That's why I'm going upset of the week. I got the Jaguars winning this, and I'm looking for Leonard Fournette. I think he's going to have 100 yards on the ground, and I think the Jaguars defense is going to knock Ben for 6 sacks on the day, 2 of which will be by Calais Campbell. All right, now on to the NFC side of things. In the wild card game, we got we had the Atlanta Falcons visiting the LA Rams. An LA Rams squad who were in their first postseason appearance since 2003 when they were the St. Louis Rams, winning their division. That was the last time they won their division. Against the Atlanta Falcons, team looking to redeem themselves from the disappointment of Super Bowl 51, which they led 28-3 at the half against New England, lost 34-28 in overtime. Now, they come out of the gate, and it's Farrell Cooper, the kick returner for the LA Rams, who was the gift that kept on giving for the Falcons. He muffs the first punt of the game in the first quarter, which leads to a field goal by Matt Bryant of the Falcons. After the second Matt Bryant field goal, in which the Falcons are leading 6-0, Farrell Cooper unfortunately gets stripped by DeMonte Casey of the Atlanta Falcons special teams at the LA Rams 32-yard line, eventually leading to a Devonta Freeman rushing touchdown. They're up 13-0. You would think that would be the end of the line for the Rams, but they're not the type of team that gives up. There's no quit, no saying die, no giving up whatsoever. And they didn't. They were able to advance for a Cooper Kupp on a 79-yard drive, leading to a Cooper Kupp touchdown, making it 13-7. Then a field goal by Sam Ficken to end the first half at 13-10. We get into the second half, and the Falcons are able to get 2 game clock chewing drives. One that lasted 8 minutes, another that lasted 5 minutes. Especially the two field goals that they had, where they led 19-13 at one point, with 10:49 to go. And on that particular drive, when they got that field goal, there was a beautiful fit. Then comes the game-clinching drive for the Falcons. A beautiful 2nd and 13 play. It's 2nd and 13 at the Atlanta 30 at their own 32-yard line, and the Falcons, Matt Ryan, quarterback, he throws a 52-yard screen pass to Mohamed Sanu. 2 plays later, an 8-yard on 1st and goal at the LA Rams 8. He throws an 8-yard pass to Julio Jones for a 6th career playoff touchdown. Rams end up losing to the Falcons 26-13. Rams got a good team in place for the future, for sure. Sean McVay brought a great amount of enthusiasm to the organization. Wade Phillips reconstructed the defense. They have the pieces in place. Todd Gurley just wasn't on his game. He was held to 43 combined yards in the first 3 quarters. He did have 100 yards. Most of that came in the fourth quarter at the end of the game, especially when they had 2 plays in which they turned it over on 2 drives in which they turned it over on downs. But nonetheless, the Rams have a good team. They're here to stay. I think they can win the NFC West again and get themselves back to the playoffs. They got a good team in place. And the same thing goes for Kansas City. The future is uncertain with Alex Smith. And let's see what happens there. For Buffalo, now with their new offense coordinator, they need a new quarterback. Let's go into the game, though, coming up for the Falcons. The Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have been not the same team offensively with Nick Foles under center as they were with Carson Wentz, who unfortunately in L.A. tore his ACL, and that was the end of his season. Now, Nick Foles did have a good performance in his first game out of the bat, December 17th. That was the day I was actually on the road with my parents to Gettysburg, and I was watching the game. On my iPad, and he was performing first time as the starting quarterback against the Giants. They won that game 34-29. He had 3 touchdown drives in the first half. He was really looking good. Then comes the Christmas night game against the Oakland Raiders. They did win 19-10, but it was not a great performance on his part. Several turnovers left and right between both squads. They still won the game and got home field advantage throughout the NFC side of the playoffs. And then came the final game of the year against the Cowboys, in which they lost 6-0. He was a paltry 4 of 11 for 39 yards with an interception, but he was only playing for a few series. Let's not forget, too. They were trying to keep him rested for this coming game. And now with those 2 weeks rest and going up against a determined, pissed-off Falcons team that is looking to redeem themselves from last year, I really have no faith and confidence in him. Yes, they have a great core of running backs with Corey Clement and with Jay Ajayi and, of course, LeGarrette Blount. They have a good set of receivers now, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, and Zach Ertz, one of the most underrated tight ends. And they have a good defense led by Jim Schwartz, their coordinator. But if you don't have a competent QB who can lead your team, none of those weapons will matter. That's why, another upset pick, I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons this week to win against the first ever number 1 seeded underdog team, that is the Philadelphia Eagles. The only way the Eagles win is if Foles makes no mistakes whatsoever, especially against that secondary led by Desmond Trevon, who will probably be guarding Alshon Jeffrey for sure. That's why Zach Ertz could be the X factor for the Eagles, but I don't see anything happening with them. I got the Falcons winning this. Dan Quinn's going to come up with a great game plan. Now, the next wild card game here, NFC South rivals, the Panthers of Carolina visiting the Saints of New Orleans. They bon temps roulette, and the good times did roll for the Saints. In the first few drives, it was punts left and right by both teams. And here's the crazy part. The Panthers could have gone up 7-0 had it not been for one Kalen Clay, who missed out on a 7-yard pass on 3rd and goal. It was right to him. Those type of plays are unforgivable to miss out on. He should have been able to catch that. That was not Cam Newton's fault. That was Kalen Clay all the way. And then, unfortunately, Graham Gano, on what should have been a chip shot 25-yard field goal, misses wide right. So they give the ball up to the Saints at their own 20. 2 plays later, and only 2 plays they needed, Drew Brees throws an 80-yard bomb to Ted Ginn in stride, and he goes down the right sideline for the go-ahead for a big touchdown. Then Graham Gano on the next drive gets a 27-yard field goal, making it 7-3. Then on the next drive right here, on a big game, clock-chewing drive by the Saints, leading to a 9-yard touchdown by Josh Hill, making it 14-3. Then a 39-yard field goal by Graham Gano, making it 14-6, still in the lead for the Saints. The Saints really were controlling the game. Eventually, they led the first half 21-9. You would think it would be over. No, it's not. Because the Panthers begin the second half with a big 15-play drive, nearly 7.5 minutes, and they end up with a field goal. But nonetheless, a big 58-yard, field goal, making it 21-12. For the first time since their second drive, the Saints were unable to score a touchdown. They had to end up getting a field goal, so it was still 24-12. But it was a doable game for the Panthers to try and win, and they eventually get another touchdown on a huge play from Cam Newton to Christian McCaffrey, making it 24-19. Then eventually, the Saints get the death knell touchdown, making it 31-19. And you think it would be over, but then the Panthers get another touchdown, making it 31-26. And the Panthers eventually get the ball back. It's first down at the Saints' 26-yard line with 58 seconds to go, with a chance to win the game. Cameron Jordan comes up, inducing an intentional grounding penalty. Then 3rd and 25 at the Saints' 34. Unfortunately, with a 10-second runoff with 22 seconds left, an incompletion in the end zone on 3rd down. Then Von Bell sacks Cam Newton for a 22-yard loss. Game over. Saints beat the Panthers 31-26. This was one of the best games of the week, filled with so much intrigue, drama, game-ending plays. Both teams really fighting for this victory, and the Saints came out on top. And Alvin Kamara just had another great performance as he's had all this year, with him and Melvin Ingram in that fearsome 1-2 combo in the Saints running back combination. And Drew Brees not having to throw the ball 40-plus times. It's really helped him dramatically this season. And now they have the pleasure of playing the Minnesota Vikings in the site of Super Bowl 52 US Bank Stadium. They played each other the very first week of the NFL season on Monday Night Football, September 11th. This was the game in which Dalvin Cook, the rookie running back out of Florida State for the Vikings, had 126 yards on the ground, while Adrian Peterson, who was at the time a member of the Saints, was held, and this will just make you puke in your soup dish, to 18 yards on 6 carries. Not the type of performance that you want to have against your old team that dumped you and let you go. Eventually, a few weeks later, Adrian was dumped yet again by the Saints, traded to the Arizona Cardinals. And we saw the emergence of Alvin Kamara in the London game against Miami. And ever since that game, him and Melvin Ingram have been great together. Whether it's running the ball or catching out of the backfield, taking the pressure off Drew Brees has dramatically helped him. He's completed 72% of his passes this year, which is an NFL record, yet again, that he sets. He had 300 less yards than what he usually has, passing yards-wise, on the season. But the fact that the pressure is not on him has improved his game throughout the season. And now you're going up against a defense. Yeah, you're going up against a very tough Vikings defense. Very tough. That's second in the league in terms of running the ball. They only allow 83.6 yards on the ground. If Mark Ingram and I keep saying Melvin, if Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara can really get it together and run the ball down the Vikings defense's collective throats and kill the clock, then you really will get to them. As for Minnesota, for them to win, well, you got Case Keenum, who's having a renaissance year, a comeback season of the ages. And then to add to the targets that he has, and Kyle Rudolph, another underrated tight end, along with Zach Ertz, 2 other great tight ends. And then the combo of Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, 2 over 6'5" receivers who can really go over the top and give you good vertical passing plays or crossing routes, anything that you need. And a great running back combo in Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray. But the defense is really at the heart of everything that is at the heart of what Minnesota has done this year too. And Mike Zimmer is a great defensive coordinator. Was a great defensive coordinator when he was with Cincinnati. Now as a head coach with the Vikings, and the fact that they went 13-3, winning the NFC North, huge. Props right there to him and the squad. And by the way, remember the first game? This was when Sam Bradford was starting quarterback, and he actually was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week for having a 346-yard, 3-touchdown performance. And then he got injured the next week, and the torch was handed over to Case Keenum. And unfortunately, Dalvin Cook, as I mentioned, not playing anymore this year for the Vikings towards ACL, but he'll be back next year, stronger and better. And but I think the real story is the Saints this year. After that pitiful performance that the Saints had, in which they lost 29-19 against the Vikings, giving up 470 total yards in that performance, and the 555 they've given up against the Patriots in Week 2, they went on an 8-game winning streak, starting with the Panthers. And it's what's led them to win their first NFC South title in years and end a streak of 3 7-9 seasons. I like where the Saints are going this year. Great balance on offense. The defense has dramatically improved. Good combination of Ken Crawley and Marshawn Lattimore, who are going to be on the cases of Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. That's why I got the Saints winning this game in an upset. And those are all the those are all the wild card games and divisional round games for this of the past week and this coming week. With about 5 minutes to go, let's recap the national championship game for college football. In the last few years, college football has undergone the college football playoffs. The Alabama Crimson Tide, and it was the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs of the SEC my favorite conference, of course, because I'm a huge fan of the Florida Gators Gainesville, which, by the way, Mom, if you're listening to this, please get me tickets to Gainesville. I want to go to a game desperately. I want to be at the Swamp. I want to do the Gator Chop. I want to be at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, have Gator Punch and Gator meat. Okay, maybe not so, because that sounds really gross now thinking about it. But I want to be with the Gator fans and experience a Florida Gators game. That's like how big a fan I am ever since Tim Tebow was on the squad. And when he won the Heisman Trophy and won 2 national titles with them. And Urban Meyer was the coach at the time. Now he's with the Ohio State Buckeyes, but I'm still a fan nonetheless of Florida. Love that team. And I was really happy for these two particular SEC squads going up against each other. The route they had to go on to get there, Alabama, beating Clemson in the Sugar Bowl, and then in a classic Rose Bowl victory that the Georgia Bulldogs winning 54-48 in double overtime against Oklahoma. And yet for a second straight week, they had to go to overtime. And it was by a man by the name of Tua Tagovailoa, the freshman quarterback, 5-star recruit out of Hawaii, who came in the second half for Alabama to replace Jalen Hurts, who was really hurting with his performance in the first half, decided when they were down 13-0, shook things up, and went on to help lead the team to 26 points, including the game-winning 41-yard touchdown pass to Devonta Smith. And now they win their 5th national title in 9 seasons with Nick Saban. And that's Nick Saban's 6th overall title in his entire history, tying the legendary great head coach Bear Bryant from Alabama. If Nick Saban gets one more national title, he will tie Bear Bryant for the most in Crimson Tide history. I think he could do it. As for the Crimson Tide, as for the Bulldogs, Mark Richt, by the way, is from the tree of Saban. He was Saban's defensive coordinator. So, of course, he brought a great pedigree to that Bulldogs organization in Athens. You have to commend both teams on the seasons that they had to get to this point. Now they're resting for a bit, but don't think they're really resting. They're getting ready for next year. That's for sure. And this coming week, and free agency-wise, we're hearing a lot of names now popping up in terms of the top 25 free agents. Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins are going to be the big stories in the free agency market come March, for sure. And the two teams, I'm hearing stories that Kirk Cousins is even open to going to Cleveland. Yeah, they're going to have a lot of cap space, as I mentioned earlier. They're going to have 2 top 4 picks. So if they sign Kirk Cousins, they can concentrate on those 2 picks getting offensive players for Kirk Cousins to work with. And maybe it could revitalize the organization in Cleveland. Just saying, to John Dorsey and Elliot Wolf, this would be a pretty good idea to go that route. I'm just spitballing, just giving you some ideas out there. As for Jimmy G, he's not leaving San Fran. They got 130 and maybe even more money in cap space. They're going to land him a 5-6-year contract. I would say somewhere between 130, 150 million, making him one of the richest QBs. Because again, we just need to elevate their contracts further and further. And in some really disturbing news we heard this past week, Le'Veon Bell is going to be a free agent this week. But he said if the Steelers team decides to try and tag him with a $14 million deal for 1 year, he's going to consider either sitting out 2018 or retiring from football. What are you, crazy, Le'Veon? Come on. To come to one of those 2 options? I'm sorry if I said that, Le'Veon, but that is insane. You have a great skill set. You're able to catch out of the backfield and run with the ball, and you're willing to give that all up because you're not getting the money that you want. I understand you deserve to get a big contract, but if this is the right organization to be with, and with the players that they have, and still Roethlisberger being there next year, put your pride aside and try to get maybe go at another championship. Well, let's see what happens this year, but I'm saying don't make such a rash decision like that. Really mull it over. That's not a choice to land at. Well, anyway, Folks, thank you so much for watching this program as always. Always appreciate it. Inviting me into your living rooms, homes, bars, wherever you may be. Tune in next week for another So for all the hardworking men and women at CTV, for Mr. Kenny Graham behind the booth, I'm Eric Rosen. And tune in next week for another edition of the Blitz Zone, Championship Sunday edition, here on CTV. Good night, peace, and love, Staten Island. Oh.